everybody. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to kick things off here. It does look like an amazing day. Really just a rich variety of topics there. When Rakesh asked me if I'd just say a few words to kick things off and talk about some of the transformation that we've been through at Harvard Business Review, I said, that's great. I'd love to do that. It's a great story. And then he said I had about 8 minutes to do it. So I've been there for about 9 years. So we're going to go about less than a minute per year. We're going to walk you guys through that. So are people here familiar with the Harvard Business Review? There's plenty of copies out in the lobby. I encourage you to take one. I think it's 15 pounds each issue, so you're coming out ahead this morning. It's a brand that's published in the U.S. It's been around for about 93 years, so a very long time. And historically, the brand looked pretty much like this. It has been printing for 93 years. It's never been an academic journal, but obviously with the association with Harvard, it publishes a lot of academics. It publishes, I'm sure, folks from the companies that you represent, potentially some of you all yourselves, really bringing about thought leadership in the world of leadership and management and innovation. Terms like ideas like disruptive innovation, Clay Christensen's famous concept there, was first published in Harvard Business Review, as were concepts such as the glass ceiling, the term information technology, all began on the pages of Harvard Business Review. But if you look at Harvard Business Review today, it looks quite a bit different than this here. And really what myself and a number of folks there at the review have been focused on in the last 9 years is to really revitalize the brand and to really bring it and make it a far more relevant publication and to get it to where it had frankly never gone before. If you follow media at all, and I'm sure this is there's probably some analogies for your industries, there's a lot of change. Innovation is something that has to happen during periods of great change, and you probably won't be able to read the index there, but basically, about 8 years ago, this kind of brownish line here represented our source of advertising revenue, and it was all print. And if you look down from the last 8 years, it's dropped about 60% down to where it now makes up about 30% of our total revenue, and we've been able to augment that with digital revenue, digital advertising revenue. We make most of our money through subscriptions, but advertising is really a critical one. And so you can notice that what the change has really brought about there. And the good news is, and you can't see it obviously from the height of the top line there, but we had a record year for advertising last year as a result of all the activities that we've done digitally. Another kind of tough slide for you to read back here, but about 3 years ago, about more than half of the people who subscribed to HBR only got the print magazine. They didn't get anything digital. And we've been able to now completely reverse that to where now almost no one, there is actually a little red line, you can barely see it up there, where now everyone gets print plus digital. It's part of what they're offering. It's really at the center of the brand proposition there. We had a great year. There's a couple of my colleagues there. We just won Best Site from DigiDay this year. That was great. So looking back over those 9 years, and again, some of that transformative change that we've seen and some of the innovation that we've helped to lead there, thinking back upon it, it really comes down to basically 3 lessons. First is just be something, and I'll explain a little bit more what that means. Second is really be patient. And the third is to be obsessed with your user. So certainly when I walked in the door in 2006 as the first person to try and tackle the internet for HBR, it was very daunting what I was faced with. There was only print. There was only about 200,000 subscribers. You had about 200,000 people coming to the site at the time. Everything was locked up behind a paywall. Obviously, social media wasn't around. We had no online-only programming. And we really, frankly, when I came into the organization, they didn't have much of a vision for the future of how they were going to co-opt and, frankly, take advantage of the technologies and the opportunities that were there. So when we were just getting started, my colleague and I, we really had to figure out what the best way was for us to grow. And we actually pulled some pages directly from our magazine. There's an article written by Chris Trimble and Vijay Govindarajan at Dartmouth. And it is a story about how to build a breakthrough business inside of an established organization. And their idea comes down to 3 basic concepts: forget, borrow, learn. So forget. If you're starting a new business inside of an existing business, well, the first things you have to do is you have to determine what it is that you're going to forget about that existing business as you get started on your own. So for us, one of the things that we needed to forget were all of the very, very heavy-handed processes that they had for content, where a single piece of content was sometimes touched by 10, 15 editors or copy editors, a whole number of people. We had to publish a lot faster. We had to get more content out there. We just couldn't support those kinds of costs. The second thing that we had to establish was, what did we want to borrow from the core business. And in our case, we wanted to borrow the brand. Obviously, that was a huge asset. Second is we wanted to borrow some of the existing relationships with authors and with the school. So that was a key thing that we needed to leverage. And then the third thing is, what do you need to learn as a new business? And for us, we needed to learn a lot. We needed to learn, what does quality content mean on the web under the Harvard Business Review brand? We had to learn about what are the right processes for those editorial touch points. So using this framework, we were able to really kind of start to set down that path to where we are today. We're actually over about 5 million people a month coming to the site every month in a real successful part of the brand. The second thing is be patient. I think most of us here are probably involved in innovation roles or maybe even technology roles in our companies. And a lot of times, if you're like me, some of the challenges that you're faced with are that there's a misperception out there that anything digital is fast or it's easy, you know. And certainly some technologies are purpose-built to speed things up, and a lot of friction has left certain kinds of equations. But these kinds of changes that we're talking about here, these types of innovations, take time. Because remember, they always involve people, right? And we are, my father's an engineer, we're the gating factor in a lot of these situations. That we're the ones that take time to evolve, to try and figure out kind of how to make those transitions. Another thing that takes time is culture. You know, we're 9 years into our evolution at Harvard Business Review, and we are still evolving the culture. You know, I don't think there's any more victory laps for any of us anymore, right? There's no more finish lines. And I think so that evolution and that continual evolvement is key, and it takes a long time. The third thing for us, this is something that was relatively new for us, was to really be obsessed with the user. In our business, you know, the expectations for the quality of the digital experience that someone has are at nosebleed levels. You know, if you think about if you've got a web presence today, you're not just competing against your kind of industry competitors. You're competing against Facebook. You're competing against these people that are trying to take people's time and attention, who are pouring billions of dollars into R&D to make good experiences. And if you want to succeed and compete successfully there, you really need to be thinking about who your user is. And when we redesigned our site, went live about a year ago, we came up with these 7 user centricity tenets that really helped guide how we wanted to position the site. And it was really met with some pretty good success there. But again, going back to the lessons, just be something. Just get started. Be obsessed with your user and be patient. Because one of the things that oftentimes bedevils innovation efforts is that there's so much time spent planning. So much time spent planning and so little time spent executing. It's oftentimes when you get started executing, the world has changed. Anyone here familiar with the story of the Choluteca Bridge in Honduras? No? So in Honduras, Central American country there, right in the path of hurricanes, and always was getting ravaged by hurricanes. And one of the things that the hurricanes typically did was they knocked out their bridge infrastructure, which is in a land of many rivers. That was a big, big problem. So in the mid-90s, a group of the world's leading architects and engineers came to Honduras with the idea that they were going to solve that problem. They were going to build a bridge that was going to be absolutely indestructible in the face of a Category 4 or Category 5 hurricane. So they spent years and years planning and designing this, and they built this bridge. And then in 1998, a big hurricane came through the area, Hurricane Mitch, and devastated Honduras. But if you look at the Choluteca Bridge, it's actually still standing. But unfortunately, what the hurricane did was it rerouted the river. And I think that's an excellent parable for all of us to really just get started doing something. And good luck to all of you in your innovation efforts. Thank you very much.